So last time we talked about the book of Enoch and the sins of the watchers, how they descended to Mount Hermon, made a pact, and decided to have sex with women. We went into the origin of demons. We talked about how the demons originated as the Nephilim, the sons of God, died. Their spirits couldn't go to heaven, they couldn't go to hell, they just wandered the earth looking for someone to oppress. And this is where we get modern demonology from. Today we're going to look at the Genesis 6 account of the sons of God and how the Bible pretty much makes an argument against the Babylonian, the Mesopotamian, Eastern religion of the Apkallu and how they came into being and how they were actually viewed as heroes of their civilization. And the Bible is very clear on this, that they weren't heroes. They were actually the reason that the deluge came, because they had sinned against God and against man, and they had provided the world with forbidden knowledge. They provided the world with things like sorcery and witchcraft and divination, seduction, military strategies, metallurgy to make weapons for war, and death. This is where evil came into the world. It wasn't an advancement of society at all, but a corruption of society. And it was so bad that humans took the ball, they ran with it, and evil entered the world in such a pronounced way that after 500 years of this, God had finally said enough. So most people view the flood as this big rainstorm, water came down, the ark was built, well, maybe not in that order. The ark was built, the animals came 2 by 2 marching into the ark, the rains fell, and then it stopped, and the ark landed, and the animals left, and mankind started over. But what if I told you that it was so much more than that? What if I told you that the reason for the flood was because of a spiritual coup going on, trying to destroy the human seed, the seed of the woman that was promised in Genesis 3. It's a fascinating story, so stay tuned. Fasten your seatbelts. So we read in Jude 6, and 2 Peter 2:4, how the fallen angels sinned against God, and how in Jude 6 that how they left their proper dwelling place, and how God is now keeping them bound with chains in gloomy darkness until the judgment day. So what we have is something that specifically says that fallen angels are not demons. Fallen angels are being punished as we speak. They cross the boundary from the divine, the spiritual, the supernatural, and into the human. And we get this hybrid species of giants. Now, please understand that there are different viewpoints on this. There's the Sethite view, where the sons of God were actually from the line of Seth, the holy, divine line of Seth. And the daughters of man were from the unholy line of Cain. Now, this produces an exegetical nightmare. Don't have time to get into it today. Suffice to say, the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, were divine. Why? Because everywhere else in Scripture that the sons of God are mentioned, they are mentioned as divine spiritual beings. No different here. The daughters of Cain, well, that makes no sense, because the Hebrew term is Benot Ha-Adam, daughters of mankind, humanity, where the divine, the sons of God, come down to the daughters of humanity and they have sex. It's very despicable, actually. Now, please understand that the enemy will always target the seed. He wants to destroy the seed. This is another reason that depravity and evil ran rampant. And then, of course, there was the forbidden wisdom, the forbidden knowledge. Now, who are the Nephilim? They are the sons of this illicit relationship. It's a post-flood reality as well. It says in Genesis 4 that whenever the sons of God came into the daughters of men, before and after the flood, they produced the Nephilim. And in our English Bibles, it says when, but it should read whenever, because it was before and after. Not all the sons of God obviously sinned prior to the flood. So that's our post-flood reality. The state of the world was such that it says in Genesis 6:5 that they were only evil continually. It was a 24/7, 365 corruption of evil and sin and wickedness that finally started to have people cry out to God, and he heard them and destroyed everyone save 8 people, Noah and his immediate family. Now, let's talk about the difference between the sanctuary and the wilderness. First of all, let's go to Leviticus 16, the Day of Atonement, where they take 2 goats. One is to be sacrificed for the sins of the people, for the atonement. And the other one, the priest lays hands on and sends him into the wilderness to Azazel. Now, remember that Azazel was one of the 200 sons of God who descended onto Mount Hermon, was one of the leaders of the pack. And his realm is the underworld. It's the wilderness, the place of chaos and death. And this is where the goat goes. It's not a sacrifice to Azazel, by no means. It just goes outside of the camp to that unholy region, and that's where the sin ends up. Not as a sacrifice, it's where sin goes to die. Now, fast forward several centuries to Jesus. Where did he go after he was baptized? He went to the wilderness. And what happened in the wilderness? He was tempted. The tempter, the evil one, came and tempted him, and he quoted scripture to him, and he tried to get Jesus to sin against God. And of course, Jesus would have none of it. See, from the wilderness, Jesus then came back into society, into some order, because in the wilderness, there's disorder, there's chaos. But in the midst, going back to Noah, in the midst of all this chaos and disorder, God found one guy who he would call righteous. It says in Genesis 6:8 that God found favor in Noah. Or Noah found favor in God, better put. Noah was blameless in his generation. This suggests he was not only morally upright, but his seed, his ancestry, his lineage remained uncorrupted by the watch of rebellion. No matter how deep the rebellion, no matter how deep the corruption, no matter how deep the sin, God preserves a way for the true seed of the woman to move forward. And move forward it did. So, as it was in the days of Noah that Jesus refers to, this is a warning. These are boundaries that we have to guard against. Because when it happens, it's over. Now remember that these spirits are in prison. We read about that in 1 Peter 3. What we have in this situation is God preserving the line, the holy seed, so that the Messiah will finally come forth. Things have to happen in the meantime. Things do happen in the meantime, but there is a kingly line that comes through the seed of the woman, through David, through the other kings, and finally to Jesus.